Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take your sources, really peel back the layers, and extract the most important insights to make you instantly well-informed. Today, we're diving into a story that kicks off with a really captivating image. Just picture this for a second. Imagine the roar, the absolute thunder of a full stadium crowd. Maybe Camp Nou in Barcelona, or the AFL Grand Final down in Melbourne. Or, think even bigger, the sheer scale of, say, a two-thirds capacity cricket match at Narendra Modi Stadium in India. Just massive numbers of people, right? All packed into one physical space. Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting. Imagine all those people, tens of thousands of them. But instead of being crammed into one stadium, they're spread out, like all across the globe. A network diaspora, basically, of digital business professionals. Living anywhere, working anywhere, but seamlessly connected, collaborating, building businesses online. That's the extraordinary vision, and actually the tangible reality, behind Estonia's, groundbreaking digital transformation. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Our deep dive today is all about Estonia's remarkable journey. It's quite something. From its pioneering e-Residency program, which really creates this global digital community we just pictured, to its robust and frankly ever-evolving cybersecurity strategy that's designed to safeguard its highly digitalized state. It has to, right? We'll explore how this small yet incredibly ambitious nation has become, in many ways, a global blueprint for digital governance. And then, crucially, we'll connect those insights to the rapidly evolving world of e-discovery and enterprise data management. Because it's all connected. Our mission here is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge, the key takeaways about building a truly digital society and protecting its digital frontier. We want to offer you, our listener, a shortcut to understanding the complexities, digital identity, cybersecurity, information governance in our increasingly connected world. Before we really jump into the thick of it, just a quick but very heartfelt thank you to our sponsors. They're the ones who make these deep dives possible.
Today's deep dive is proudly supported by www.CISOmarketplace.com, your go-to hub for cutting-edge cybersecurity solutions. Really essential stuff. Also by www.myprivacy.blog, offering vital insights into data protection and privacy in our digital age. Again, couldn't be more relevant. And by www.compliancehub.wiki, an invaluable resource for navigating those complex regulatory landscapes and ensuring adherence to critical standards. As you'll hear throughout a conversation, their work aligns perfectly with the themes we're discussing today, from secure digital identities all the way through to robust cybersecurity frameworks. Okay, let's kick things off with this story of incredible transformation. It's often called Estonia's Tiger Leap. And it's almost unbelievable to think that just 3 decades ago, Estonians were still carrying Soviet-style internal passports. Imagine enduring long, frustrating lines for nearly every basic public service. The inefficiency, the time loss, just the sheer friction in daily life. Yet this very country, emerging from that bureaucratic past, has now become what they themselves call a 100% digital government.
There's even a running joke there, if you visit, that the only thing you can't do online is get married. Which, it's a lot about their commitment.
And that profound shift, it wasn't just about convenience, it wasn't just a nice to have. It was actually a deeply strategic and you could almost say existential response to the unique governance challenges they faced. I mean, think about Estonia's landscape. It's got these dense, sprawling forests, thousands of lakes, and over 2,200 islands, really spread out. So building and maintaining traditional physical infrastructure for public services, think government offices, post offices, local branches, everywhere across that kind of terrain, it would have been not just incredibly expensive, but inherently inefficient. Terribly so. So digitalization, therefore, wasn't just an option for Estonia. It was considered absolutely essential for effective governance and service delivery. And this proactive digital-first approach, it's paid immense dividends. It significantly fostered trust between citizens and the state, dramatically increased transparency in government operations, which is huge, and it's vastly improved access to essential services for everyone, regardless of where they live in the country.
That's such a powerful origin story.
Yeah.
It really frames it differently, not tech for tech's sake, but tech as a necessity. When we talk about everything, it really isn't just a catchphrase, is it? It seems like a genuinely comprehensive suite of digital services. The scope and adoption sound amazing. You mentioned things like the e-tax board, making filing taxes almost effortless, apparently. E-business, letting you register and manage companies incredibly quickly and simply. E-banking for finances, e-tickets for transport, e-school for education management, and maybe the most striking one for many listeners, i-voting, letting citizens cast ballots securely online. Did I hear right that handled over 50% of votes recently?
That's correct, yeah. Over half the votes in their last parliamentary election were cast using the iVoting system. It's become very normalized. And then you have universal access to digital health records, empowering citizens with their own medical data, which is a huge step. So it is truly remarkable when you consider that 99% of their public services are accessible online 24/7.
99%. That figure just stops you in your tracks.
Hmm.
For listeners who might be, let's say, grappling with digital hurdles in their own countries, what are the absolute fundamental building blocks?
Yeah.
How did Estonia actually achieve this level of seamless integration?
That's the critical question, really. And the core answer lies in something called X-Road. Now, X-Road isn't just like a simple database or a single platform. You need to think of it more as a distributed data exchange layer. It acts as the actual digital backbone for the entire nation, the plumbing, if you will. Think of it as a secure, interoperable network that lets all these different public and private sector information systems, banks, government agencies, hospitals seamlessly link up and operate in harmony. It's kind of the silent orchestrator behind the scenes. It makes sure that when you, as an Estonian citizen, interact with one e-service, say updating your address, the necessary data can be securely accessed and exchanged with other relevant services like the tax board or the health system without you having to manually submit the same info over and over or visit different offices.
Okay, so if it's the central nervous system, connecting so many disparate systems, handling incredibly sensitive information, my immediate thought goes to resilience and security. That has to be paramount. Are there specific architectural choices or protocols within X-Road itself that made it uniquely trustworthy for handling, well, basically the nation's data?
Precisely. And they thought about this from the start. X-Road is designed with robust security absolutely at its core. Every single data exchange is time-stamped, it's cryptographically signed, and, importantly, comprehensive records are kept of exactly who has accessed which systems, which data points, and when. This creates a fully auditable trail, enhancing both transparency and accountability, which, as you know, is fundamental to building public trust in any digital system, especially a government one. Interestingly, the initial discussions for X-Road actually started way back in 1998. A pilot project launched in 2000, and it was officially established in 2001, so it's quite mature. There was some public discussion, even a bit of controversy around early claims that X-Road used blockchain technology. Those claims came up because of how it handles data integrity. However, that was later clarified and actually denied by the Nordic Institute for Interoperability Solutions, the organization that maintains X-Road now. While it does use cryptographic hashing and linked timestamping to ensure data integrity, which has some conceptual similarities, it's not a distributed ledger in the same way we typically think of blockchain. But the key point remains. Its core functionality of secure, auditable, and interoperable data exchange is what makes it so profoundly powerful and, crucially, reliable for their digital society.
Right. So maybe not blockchain in a strict sense, but definitely built on cryptographic principles for trust. And this really isn't just about making things easier, is it? It feels like a fundamental shift in how a country operates, how citizens interact with the state. What does it mean for citizen trust when that security is like intrinsically woven into every single digital interaction right from the very first click? And a crucial component, the thing that makes all this possible for the individual citizen, the actual front door of this digital state, has to be the digital ID card, right?
You absolutely hit on a key point there. Without a secure, universal identity layer, none of the rest works seamlessly. So back in 2002, Estonia introduced a mandatory digital identification system. It's not optional. And today, an astounding 98% of Estonians possess a digital ID card. That's near universal adoption. And what's more, approximately 70% use it regularly for various public services. It's part of daily life. Now, just to put that into a global perspective, think about this. The European Union has set a pretty ambitious goal for 80% citizen EID usage across the bloc, but the target date is 2030. Estonia isn't just meeting that future goal, they're already far, far ahead of it, almost a decade early and exceeding it.
98% adoption, 70% regular use. That's incredible uptake. So what can you actually do with this digital ID card? Is it just for logging into government websites, or does its utility spread further into everyday life for the average Estonian?
Oh, its utility is absolutely pervasive. It goes way beyond just government services. You use it for pretty much everything. Securely paying bills online, casting your vote online in national elections, as we mentioned, signing legally binding contracts, think employment contracts, apartment leases, loan agreements, all done digitally, conducting online shopping securely, even accessing your your personal health information, seeing test results, managing prescriptions. It's all tied to that single digital identity. The absolute key here, though, and what gives it such immense power and utility, is the legal status. Digital identification and the digital signatures facilitated by this card are legally fully equivalent to face-to-face identification and handwritten signatures throughout the entire European Union. This legal equivalence means a digitally signed contract from an Estonian e-resident or a citizen is just as valid as a wet signature on paper anywhere in the EU. That's huge. This isn't just a technical convenience, it's a fundamental aspect of legal trust in their digital ecosystem that vastly streamlines commerce, administration, everything, really. Now, it's worth noting there was a temporary locking of some cards back in 2017. This was due to a discovered vulnerability in a specific chip from a third-party manufacturer. But, and this is important, no known exploitation of that vulnerability ever actually occurred. The issue was identified proactively and quickly addressed with robust security updates, which actually demonstrates their commitment to maintaining that security and trust. What's truly fascinating, I think, is how Estonia recognized so early on, way back, that a secure, universal adopted digital identity is the absolute cornerstone of a truly functional and trustworthy digital state. And this raises a really important question for all of us, especially those listening who work in related fields. What implications does this kind of advanced, legally recognized national digital identity infrastructure have for global identity verification? And critically, for fraud prevention, particularly as the world increasingly shifts towards purely digital interactions, remote work, global business?
That is a profound question, and it feels incredibly relevant right now. If a small nation like Estonia can build such a highly trusted, legally recognized digital ID system, wow, it sets a powerful precedent. You start thinking about the implications for cross-border transactions, right? Or those stringent KYC know your customer requirements that businesses everywhere grapple with. Could other countries adopt similar models to streamline international business? Could it reduce the friction, the cost associated with all that traditional paper-based verification? Maybe. Or maybe looking at it from the other side, how might traditional financial institutions, fraud prevention specialists, how do they need to adapt their strategies? They need to account for the increasing prevalence of these advanced, cryptographically secured digital identities. It's not just about spotting fake passports anymore. It really suggests a future where digital trust might actually transcend physical borders, but it also demands completely new thinking around security paradigms and verification methods. And speaking of secure digital services, protecting information, building that trust,
this feels like a perfect moment to acknowledge one of our sponsors, www.myprivacy.blog. Their whole focus is on safeguarding digital interests and cyber brands, which perfectly complements Estonia's pioneering work in creating these secure digital identities and the frameworks needed for data protection. It's a really vital resource for navigating these emerging challenges.
Absolutely. It ties in perfectly. And if you're thinking about the legal equivalence of these digital signatures, which we just discussed, or the robust regulatory frameworks that are needed to support them, the compliance requirements for businesses operating across borders using these kinds of digital identities, then www.compliancehub.wiki becomes an invaluable resource. It really helps you understand the intricate regulatory side of these digital advancements. It's where, the technology meets the law, essentially.
Okay, so moving on from Estonia's impressive national digital services for its own citizens, let's explore one of its most globally innovative initiatives, and that's the e-Residency program. Launched back in 2014, I believe, this program was Estonia's really bold step towards becoming what they envisioned as a country without borders. Quite a tagline. It essentially allows non-residents, people like you or me perhaps, to obtain an Estonian digital ID card. And this unique card then grants them secure access to Estonia's extensive digital services, but specifically aimed at facilitating business and entrepreneurship from anywhere.
Yes, and it's really crucial to clarify what e-residency is, and perhaps just as importantly, what it is not, because there can be misconceptions. So while it provides truly unparalleled access to Estonia's digital business services, setting up a company, banking, taxes, contracts, it does not grant you physical residency in Estonia. You can't just move there because you're an e-resident. You also cannot use it as a travel document like a passport, nor does it provide any special right of entry into the country or the EU Schengen area. And crucially, from a financial perspective, it's absolutely not a loophole to avoid paying taxes in your country of actual residence. That's a common myth. If you become an e-resident and establish a company in Estonia, you generally become a taxpayer in both Estonia for company profits generated there and your home country for salary, dividends, etc., subject to existing double taxation treaties between the countries. So it's genuinely about facilitating digital business, fostering location independence for entrepreneurs, and allowing them to tap into the ease of doing business within the EU framework, using Estonia's highly digital environment from literally anywhere in the world.
Right, so it's a business tool, essentially a gateway to the EU market via digital means, not a citizenship or residency pathway. And the scale of this country without borders community is genuinely impressive. It really reflects its growing global appeal. I saw statistics from 2023 showing over 100,000 e-residents, and they hail from more than 170 countries worldwide. That's incredible reach. And since the program kicked off in 2014, these e-residents have gone on to establish over 27,000 companies registered in Estonia, covering everything from solo consultancies and e-commerce ventures to, rapidly scaling tech startups.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, these aren't just numbers on a page. They're not mere statistics. It's a powerful demonstration of actually creating a truly global networked diaspora. It's quite unique. These individuals, they're connected not by physical proximity or shared nationality in the traditional sense, but by shared interests. Interests in business freedom, in digital innovation, in location independence. It really is a remarkable testament to the power of digital connectivity and what a forward-thinking nation can achieve by deliberately embracing it as a means to expand its economic influence and its community far beyond its physical borders.
Okay, so beyond the purely digital access to set up and run a business, what are the actual benefits of being part of this e-residency community? Because it sounds like there's a strong social and collaborative aspect to it, which isn't always something you'd immediately associate with, digital government initiatives.
There absolutely is, and that's often cited by e-residents as a core differentiator, a key benefit beyond the tech. E-residents typically are individuals who really highly value personal and business freedom. They often travel frequently, and they actively manage location-independent enterprises. That's kind of the profile. So the e-residency program naturally opens up unique opportunities for them to meet and network with like-minded individuals wherever they happen to be in the world. They connect online, of course, through various official and unofficial social media groups. They participate in informative webinars, share experiences, ask questions. That's the baseline. But what's even more engaging, I think, are the in-person community events. These are held monthly, organized or supported by the program in different major cities around the globe, London, Tokyo, Berlin, New York, Singapore, wherever there's a concentration of e-residents. This provides real, tangible spaces for connection, for sharing war stories, for potential collaboration, and some e-residents even take the initiative to start their own local community networks, organizing regular informal meetups, fostering this grassroots level of connection and mutual support. It's become a very dynamic and somewhat self-organizing community.
Yeah, and we've heard some truly compelling testimonials that really bring this community spirit to life, make it tangible. I recall reading about Julian Mayer, the founder of an e-commerce brand called Urban Tiger. He said he found e-residency incredibly simple and easy for his business operations, the technical side. But what really resonated with him beyond that was, and quoting here, being connected to real people who actually care about what I am doing and are supportive. He specifically mentioned he felt this connection at an e-residency event in Berlin, noting the genuine warmth and shared purpose among the attendees there. It wasn't just transactional.
Exactly. And this sense of community, it frequently extends beyond just networking into tangible business outcomes and strategic partnerships. It's not just social. Take the example of Dr. Priya E. Abraham. She founded a company called Cyberconnecting OE, focusing on cybersecurity awareness. She initially met a fellow e-resident, Oliver Gasser, at one of these e-residency community events back in 2018. Following that initial connection, and especially after the dynamics of the pandemic accelerated the need for digital solutions, they actually co-founded a new business together called Value. Value is a boutique SaaS application designed specifically to help businesses manage digital risks. And Priya noted, quote, e-residency is a door opener to an international network presenting high-caliber experts from various fields. The input and feedback from entrepreneurs and business leaders were invaluable for our solution. So these stories really highlight that the network isn't just for casual connections. It actively facilitates collaboration, validation, and ultimately business growth.
Yeah, those aren't just isolated anecdotes, are they? They paint a really clear picture of genuine community, tangible business benefits, that extend far beyond simply having access to digital government services. It's about building a supportive ecosystem around the program.
Precisely. And beyond just the social or serendipitous aspect, the community provides structured access to a wealth of entrepreneurial experience. You get insights from those who are already successfully running companies in Estonia using the e-Residency framework. This means new e-residents can get really practical advice. They can learn the shortcuts, as it were, to navigate the legal and operational aspects of setting up and managing a company efficiently, avoiding common pitfalls. For instance, advice might range from choosing the right Estonian service provider for accounting, which is crucial, to understanding the nuances of local regulations or specific tax declarations. Pure advice is gold.
And it's not just peer-to-peer support, is it? The official e-Residency team itself provides quite a lot of dedicated content and comprehensive support structures. I understand they offer written guides, detailed case studies, videos across their online channels. They broadcast regular live Q&As, host educational events, both online and sometimes in person. Plus, there's the e-Residency marketplace. That acts as a complementary network, right? It's a directory of vetted service providers, legal firms, accountants, virtual offices, consultants, all offering supposedly deep market-specific knowledge to help these entrepreneurs overcome barriers to growth and scale their operations effectively within the Estonian EU context.
That's right. They've curated that marketplace to ensure quality and relevance, and they've also been quite proactive in fostering growth more directly. For instance, they launched a new opportunities portal specifically designed to connect e-residents with accelerators, incubators, and investors, making it easier to find funding and mentorship within the ecosystem. What's also quite unique, and this comes back partly to Estonia's relatively small size, is how closely its public and private sectors collaborate. It's a tight-knit community at the national level. This environment actually allows e-resident founders, even though they're not physically there, perhaps, to actively participate in policy discussions and events. They get invited, their feedback is solicited. This gives them a direct voice in shaping the country's business environment, making their feedback genuinely impactful, which is quite unusual for non-residents anywhere else.
And the power of this community, its genuine value proposition, seems further validated by survey data. I saw a finding that a significant 30%, nearly a third of e-residents, said they were recommended the program by a friend or a colleague. That's a really strong indicator, isn't it? It points to a truly engaged, satisfied community that finds real value in the program and is eager to share it through word of mouth. The e-Residency marketplace is such a fantastic example of a community actively connecting entrepreneurs with the specific service providers they need to succeed in their digital ventures. It's curated connection. And speaking of curated platforms and communities designed for practical support, that's precisely the kind of value that www.cisomarketplace.com delivers. But for cybersecurity professionals, if you're out there looking for specific solutions, vendors, or services to fortify your organization's digital defenses, it serves as a vital connection point, much like the e-Residency community provides essential networking from entrepreneurs. Different domain, similar principle.
Absolutely. It's a great parallel. The ability to quickly find the right partners, specialized knowledge, and effective solutions is absolutely crucial for any business or professional today. Doesn't matter the field. Whether you're an e-resident trying to navigate Estonian accounting or you're a CISO grappling with complex cybersecurity challenges like ransomware or cloud security, this just underscores the immense value of curated platforms and trusted communities for practical support and making those strategic connections efficiently.
Okay, so we've explored how Estonia built its impressive digital society for its citizens, and then how it cleverly extended its digital borders globally with the e-Residency program. But now, a critical question emerges, maybe the most critical. How does a nation so intricately reliant on digital infrastructure actually protect itself, especially from the kind of ever-evolving threats we see today? And that leads us directly to their cutting-edge cybersecurity strategy. It seems they're constantly iterating. Estonia has just unveiled its fourth national cybersecurity strategy, this one titled Cyber Conscious Estonia 2024-2030. And already it's being recognized internationally as something of a white paper in the field, a benchmark. It's been meticulously updated, apparently, to directly address what they explicitly call a significantly deteriorated global security situation, thinking particularly about geopolitical tensions. It also carefully considers the EU's updated NIS2 directive on cybersecurity for critical infrastructure and feeds into Estonia's own long-term national development plan,
Estonia 2035.
Yes, and what's really crucial to understand about the strategy, what makes it perhaps different, is its truly horizontal nature. It's pervasive. It's not just a top-down mandate coming from a single government agency telling everyone else what to do. That often doesn't work. Instead, it actively seeks to forge comprehensive agreements and foster deep, genuine collaboration across all key actors within Estonian society. It's a whole-of-nation approach. This includes, naturally, the public sector encompassing both civilian agencies and military defense forces working together. It includes vital service providers, think energy companies, telcos, banks, hospitals, critical infrastructure. It includes private companies operating within the cybersecurity and broader tech sectors, leveraging their expertise. And it even explicitly includes universities and research institutions driving innovation and education. The overarching goal, the mission statement, if you like, is to create a truly cyber-resilient Estonia. And they believe the only way to do that is by integrating cybersecurity thinking and practice into every single facet of society, recognizing that, a nation's digital defense is only as strong as its weakest link.
Okay, a whole-of-nation approach sounds comprehensive. But how do they actually manage this at a national level, coordinate it all? I understand Estonia has historically had a somewhat decentralized approach to cybersecurity governance, which, could be seen as both a strength, agility maybe, but also a potential weakness in terms of unified command.
That's a very perceptive observation, and it's something they grapple with. While the Ministry of Economic Affairs and Communications technically takes the lead in overseeing national cybersecurity policy, the actual operational responsibilities, the day-to-day defense and response, are indeed distributed among multiple institutions. There isn't one single cyber agency doing everything. A dedicated cybersecurity council then exists, tasked specifically with coordinating efforts across these various ministries, agencies, and sectors, attempting to create a cohesive national strategy and response capability. However, as you hinted, this decentralized model isn't without its complexities. It can be challenging. In fact, the strategy document itself frankly identifies fragmented responsibilities and inconsistent legislative alignment between different bodies as areas needing significant improvement. These are recognized weaknesses. These issues can potentially lead to gaps in coverage, maybe duplication of effort, or even inefficiencies in rapid response during a crisis. So to address this directly, key actions planned within the new strategy include, firstly, assessing the benefits of potentially consolidating some cybersecurity functions into a single, perhaps more centralized institution. They're studying that. And secondly, committing to regularly updating cybersecurity legislation to align seamlessly with critical EU directives like NIS2 and also NATO directives, ensuring consistency. This includes implementing risk-based regulations for various industries, tailoring requirements to the specific threats they face to ensure a robust baseline of security across the entire economy. This complex balancing act, between decentralization for agility and centralization for coherence, it raises a really important question. How do smaller nations, which are often at the forefront of digital innovation and therefore often prime targets for cyber attacks, how do they balance that agility with the critical need for coherent, unified, and perhaps more centralized cybersecurity governance to respond effectively to sophisticated modern threats? It's a challenge many nations are grappling with, not just Estonia. And Estonia's continued refinement of its own approach definitely offers valuable lessons for others watching.
And the threat landscape itself, as the strategy acknowledges, is constantly evolving. It's getting more sophisticated, more pervasive. What are the main specific concerns Estonia is focusing on in this updated strategy? What keeps them up at night?
Well, the strategy highlights several key areas. Firstly, it points out that cyber attacks are increasingly being used in what they term interstate influence operations. This essentially means state-backed or state-sponsored digital campaigns. They're designed not just to steal data, but actively to disrupt, destabilize, or sway public opinion in other countries, often operating in that gray zone just below direct military conflict. For instance, with Russia's growing technical isolation from parts of the global internet and Western supply chains, there's a tangible concern expressed in the strategy that they might feel less constrained by fears of harming services they themselves rely on, potentially leading to more aggressive or reckless cyber tactics against neighbors like Estonia. Then, on the purely criminal front, ransomware attacks remain a persistent major threat. The strategy calls them an incredibly damaging manifestation of global cybercrime. It's simply a highly lucrative business model for criminal gangs, and these attacks are increasingly targeting vital services, hospitals, local government, utilities, and critical infrastructure, posing a direct threat to societal functioning and economic stability. It's not just an IT problem, it's a societal one.
So what does all this mean for the everyday person, the average citizen or the small business owner in Estonia. It really sounds like cybersecurity isn't just an IT department's job anymore, is it? It feels like something everyone needs to be aware of, personally involved in.
Exactly. That's a core message of the cyber-conscious Estonia strategy. The Information System Authority, which is RIA, Estonia's central cybersecurity agency, currently acknowledges that it likely only sees the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the actual number of incidents occurring outside the immediate state network, especially within the private sector and among individuals. This necessitates, they argue, enhanced situational awareness across the entire digital landscape, not just government systems. They need better visibility. And there's a particular and growing concern, explicitly mentioned, about the rising number of attacks targeting healthcare institutions. This is primarily because, one, their systems have such a critical impact on public well-being, and two, they contain vast amounts of highly sensitive patient data, making them incredibly lucrative targets for extortion or data theft by criminals.
Okay, so they recognize this gap in visibility and awareness. How are they actually trying to bridge that gap? How do you encourage individual responsibility, business responsibility for cybersecurity?
Well, the strategy is quite frank in acknowledging a societal awareness gap. It states that cybersecurity is often not perceived as a personal responsibility by many citizens. And similarly, it's often not seen as a main business risk, especially, unfortunately, for small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, who consequently also often fail to make sufficient investments in their own digital defenses. They think it won't happen to them, or they lack resources. So to counter this, Estonia is undertaking various proactive efforts laid out in the strategy. They're implementing targeted public awareness campaigns, trying different messaging. They're involving influencers, trying to reach broader, maybe younger audiences. And they're actively promoting their annual national cybersecurity test, trying to gamify it a bit, make it engaging. In 2023, over 15,000 people completed this test, which is a positive step, but they want that number much higher. The ultimate goal stated in the strategy is ambitious: to ensure that less than 10% of Estonians haven't taken at least some basic personal security and privacy steps online. It's really about instilling a pervasive, nationwide cyber-conscious culture, recognizing that the human element-aware, cautious users is arguably the most critical layer of defense.
This comprehensive approach, thinking about the human element too, extends to their key technical and strategic pillars for maintaining a secure cyber environment. Let's maybe delve into some of those specific strategies, starting with security by design and zero trust principles. These sound like quite fundamental shifts in how they approach building and securing digital systems.
They absolutely are fundamental shifts, yes. Security by design is all about embedding security thinking right from the very beginning. It means integrating security considerations and controls from the earliest possible stages of service and product development. You don't build the service first and then try to bolt security on afterwards. So, for example, when designing a new government e-service, instead of just focusing on the user interface and functionality, the development team immediately considers things like data encryption requirements, robust access controls, input validation, vulnerability testing protocols, secure coding practices, all from day one. This approach significantly reduces security risks down the line, and crucially, it also reduces the much higher costs associated with trying to fix vulnerabilities once a system is already built and deployed. It's proactive prevention, basically, cheaper and more effective.
Right. Building it in, not bolting it on. Makes sense. And the zero trust security model, that sounds like a very strong, almost skeptical default stance. Can you unpack that a bit more?
Yes, the zero trust security model is definitely getting significant traction globally. It's not just Estonia. Major economies like the USA, Japan, Germany, France are all actively moving towards adopting zero trust architectures, especially in government and critical sectors. It's based on a simple but powerful principle. No one is trusted by default. Doesn't matter if they are connecting from inside your traditional network perimeter or outside it, trust is never assumed. Every user, every device, every application attempting to access any resource must be continuously verified, authenticated, and authorized. And critically, access is granted only on a least privilege basis, just enough access to do the specific task needed, and no more. This approach is absolutely critical in today's complex IT landscape, especially with the widespread adoption of cloud technologies in hybrid workplaces, which have fundamentally blurred those old traditional boundaries between what's considered internal and external to the network. It's really a paradigm shift away from a castle and moat perimeter-centric security model to one that assumes breach is possible or even likely, and therefore requires constant verification at every access point.
Okay, shifting from perimeter defense to identity-centric continuous verification. That's a big change. Now, one of the biggest practical challenges for any long-standing digital system, especially in government, is dealing with older technology, sometimes called technical debt or legacy systems. How is Estonia addressing the issue of its own legacy systems while simultaneously trying to prepare for truly future, potentially disruptive technologies?
Yeah, it's a significant two-pronged challenge, and the strategy addresses both quite directly. On the legacy side, an internal assessment estimated that around 40% of Estonia's current public e-services are running on what's technically termed legacy software. That's a big chunk. These are often older systems, maybe built years ago, that simply don't meet modern security standards or current data protection requirements like GDPR. Often they even lack proper documentation, making maintenance hard, or they're built on obsolete programming languages that fewer developers know, making them incredibly difficult and expensive to manage, update, and secure effectively. While they're being kept operational out of necessity for now, they represent a significant known vulnerability and are clearly not sustainable in the long term. There's a plan to gradually modernize or replace them, but it's a major undertaking. Then, on the flip side, looking far ahead, Estonia is actively preparing for profoundly future threats that, frankly, many nations are only just beginning to seriously consider. They explicitly recognize the potential, maybe even existential threat, that fault-tolerant quantum computers could pose to all current cryptographic algorithms. Just to explain briefly, quantum computers, though still largely in developmental stages, harness quantum mechanics to perform calculations potentially far beyond the capabilities of today's supercomputers. Critically, theorists believe they could eventually break nearly all of the public key encryption algorithms like RSA, ECC, that currently secure our online communications, our financial transactions, our sensitive government and corporate data. Think about the encryption protecting your online banking, your email, secure websites, all potentially vulnerable. So Estonia's stated focus on actively developing and planning the transition to quantum-resistant cryptographic solutions isn't just like vague future-proofing. It's about pioneering and adopting entirely new mathematical approaches to encryption, post-quantum cryptography, that are believed to be resistant to attacks from both classical and quantum computers. This is about ensuring the long-term security and integrity of their entire digital infrastructure and citizen data into the 2030s and beyond. And supporting this, they're also committed to significantly increasing national knowledge and competence in advanced cryptography research and secure cloud service implementation.
Wow, tackling legacy debt and preparing for quantum decryption threats simultaneously. That's ambitious. They also seem to have some truly unique measures for strengthening actual crisis management and response, like their cybersecurity reserve. That sounds like something straight out of a national defense playbook, almost.
It is, in a way, and it's a genuinely innovative approach that really underscores their commitment to practical resilience, not just theoretical plans. In the autumn of 2022, Estonia formally created this cybersecurity reserve. It's quite unique. This system essentially engages highly competent cybersecurity experts from both the public sector and the private sector on a structured, pre-agreed basis. This allows for rapid mobilization and deployment of skilled personnel in the event of a major national cyber incident, like a surge capacity. Think of it almost as a civilian cyber defense force that can be activated quickly when the nation faces a significant digital threat that overwhelms normal capacity. It's a tested system now and quite unique globally in its formal structure, I believe. Complementing this reserve capacity, they are also actively implementing what they call a national cyber shield. This acts as an additional proactive layer of protection specifically for prioritized target groups, particularly vital service providers and critical national infrastructure like power grids, water systems, essential government databases. CERDI, which is their National Computer Emergency Response Team, plays a key operational role here, providing services like enhanced DDoS mitigation against those large-scale denial-of-service attacks, which, as the strategy notes, have multiplied dramatically due to recent geopolitical events.
And how does Estonia fit into the broader international cybersecurity landscape? Are they kind of isolated in their cutting-edge approach, doing their own thing, or are they deeply embedded in larger collaborative efforts?
Oh, far from isolated. They know they can't do it alone. Estonia is deeply committed to international cooperation and aligning closely with the most robust cybersecurity frameworks, particularly within the EU and NATO. They see collective defense as key in cyberspace, too. They actively participate in joint cyber defense exercises, like NATO's Locked Shields, which they actually host. They share threat intelligence, expertise, and coordinate responses with allies routinely. And they place a strong emphasis on strengthening supply chain security, particularly against state-sponsored cyber threats, recognizing that global supply chains are a common, often vulnerable vector for attack these days. Beyond formal alliances, they also actively support Ukraine's cybersecurity development, sharing their own experiences and expertise. And they consistently promote Estonian ICT companies and their expertise abroad, positioning themselves not just as a user of technology, but as a global leader and thought partner in digital security and innovation.
Finally, let's touch on funding, which, let's be honest, is often the critical hurdle for implementing such ambitious long-term strategies. How is Estonia actually financing this comprehensive cybersecurity vision?
Yeah, funding is always a significant and ongoing challenge, especially for sustained efforts. Estonia is actively seeking to shift its funding model. They want to move away from a largely project-based funding model for national cybersecurity services, where, funding is secured for specific time-limited initiatives, towards a more stable, permanent funding structure embedded in regular budgets, like funding national defense or healthcare. This kind of shift provides much better long-term predictability and allows for sustained investment in critical capabilities, infrastructure, and crucially, highly skilled personnel who are hard to recruit and retain. A significant challenge they acknowledge here is raising awareness, both within the public sector and especially in the private sector, about the critical need to contribute adequate funding to IT budgets, specifically for cybersecurity. It can't be an afterthought. It's really about getting everyone, from government ministries to company boards, to truly understand that cybersecurity isn't merely a cost center or an insurance policy. It's an essential, proactive investment for national security, economic resilience, and maintaining public trust. And it requires shared responsibility and shared funding across society.
This whole discussion about Estonia's national cybersecurity strategy, from proactive risk management and threat intelligence to infrastructure defense and international cooperation, directly relates to the vital work of CISOs, Chief Information Security Officers, and other cybersecurity leaders in organizations worldwide. They face many similar challenges, just perhaps on a different scale. And that's precisely why a resource like www.cisomarketplace.com is so crucial. It serves as that connection point, helping these leaders find the solutions, the vendors, the intelligence they need to build genuinely cyber-resilient organizations and navigate this incredibly complex and dynamic threat landscape.
Absolutely. And as we've discussed throughout this section, strong cybersecurity is intrinsically fundamentally linked with data privacy and regulatory compliance. The two go hand in hand. Whether you're talking about the broad mandates of the EU's NIS2 directive, or the intricate technical details of ensuring security by design in new products, or the legal requirements for protecting sensitive citizen or customer data under GDPR or similar laws. Resources like www.myprivacy.blog, which focuses on those data protection aspects, and www.compliancehub.wiki, which helps navigate the complex regulatory requirements. They provide that vital information, the frameworks, the expert guidance needed. They are really becoming indispensable tools for any professional operating effectively in the fields of cybersecurity, privacy, or compliance today.
Okay, so now let's try to connect Estonia's incredible national digital journey and its really robust security posture to the broader global landscape. Specifically, let's look at the rapidly expanding e-discovery market. What are the implications, maybe the lessons, for businesses and legal frameworks worldwide, drawing from Estonia's blueprint of digital trust, secure data management, and robust identity?
Yeah, that's a really interesting connection to make. What's truly fascinating here, I think, is how Estonia's proactive approach, secure digital identity, robust data exchange via X-Road, comprehensive cybersecurity, baked in how that creates a foundational model that is increasingly critical everywhere, especially for managing the absolutely vast amounts of digital data involved in legal proceedings, regulatory investigations, internal compliance checks worldwide. This brings us directly to the e-discovery market, where the very principles Estonia champions secure data handling, ensuring data integrity, robust information governance, clear audit trails are absolutely paramount. They're not optional, they're essential. In many ways, the challenges and solutions emerging in the global e-discovery market mirror many of the fundamental issues a digital nation like Estonia has had to tackle, just perhaps on a grander national scale.
In this e-discovery market, it's not just growing steadily, it's expanding at a really impressive rate, isn't it? The numbers seem quite large.
It absolutely is. The growth indicates a massive and increasing global demand driven by the explosion of digital information. Market projections show the e-discovery sector expanding from roughly $16.89 billion in 2024 to a substantial $25.11 billion by 2029. That reflects a really robust compound annual growth rate, or CAGR, of about 8.25% over that 5-year period. That's significant sustained growth. And the key drivers behind this explosive growth, they're multifaceted, but also quite interconnected. First, as we've touched on, we're seeing rising data complexity. It's not just more data, but data coming from an ever wider array of sources. Think Teams messages, Slack, WhatsApp, collaboration platforms, IoT devices, much of it unstructured, making it harder to manage and search. Second, there's the constant evolution of global regulations. Think GDPR, CCPA, various data breach notification laws, financial regulations. They all impose more stringent requirements for data retention, privacy protection, and timely discovery during litigation or investigations. And third, critically, there's the increasing adoption, almost normalization now, of advanced technologies like artificial intelligence and cloud-based solutions within the legal tech space itself. These tools are both enabling greater efficiency and creating new challenges for data management and discovery workflows.
Wow, 8.25% CAGR is serious growth. That points to really significant shifts in how businesses, law firms, and governments are having to operate when it comes to handling data for legal matters. And speaking of cloud, you mentioned that. I understand there's a particularly significant, almost dominant shift happening towards cloud-first e-discovery solutions. Is that right?
Indeed. It's probably the single most defining technological trend reshaping the e-discovery market right now. It's a massive migration. Off-premise cloud-based e-discovery solutions, SaaS platforms, essentially are projected to absolutely dominate the market. The forecasts suggest they'll represent a staggering 78% of the total market spend by 2029. That's 4/5 of the market. This is in stark contrast to traditional on-premise solutions, software installed on servers within an organization's own data center. While those will still see some modest growth in absolute dollar terms, their actual market share is projected to decline significantly. And this pronounced shift is driven by the inherent advantages that cloud solutions offer in this context. Their unparalleled scalability, you can spin up resources to handle massive, unpredictable data volumes for a big case, then spin them down again. Much harder on-prem. Significant cost efficiencies, shifting from large capital expenditures on hardware and software licenses to more predictable operational expenditure models. And crucially, access to advanced analytics capabilities and integrated AI tools, which cloud providers can update and deploy much more rapidly than individual organizations typically can with on-prem software. So this directly impacts how organizations approach managing their data for legal and compliance needs, pushing them strongly towards more flexible, technology-driven, and often outsourced or hybrid approaches using these cloud platforms.
Okay, cloud is clearly taking over there. With all this growth, the shift to cloud, and new AI technologies reshaping the landscape, how is the actual spending distributed across the different core e-discovery tasks? Things like the initial document review, the data processing stage, the upfront data collection. Is that expensive review phase still the biggest piece of the pie, or are we seeing a rebalancing happening there too?
It's still the largest single component, yes, but its relative share is definitely evolving, and that signals a major operational shift underway. The review phase, where lawyers or paralegals actually look at documents to determine relevance, privilege, etc., is projected to account for about $10.81 billion in spending in 2024. That's roughly 64% of total e-discovery expenditures globally. Still the lion's share. However, its share of the total spend is forecast to gradually decline, expected to drop to around 52% by 2029. Still the biggest piece, but noticeably smaller proportionally. And the why behind this decline is profoundly important for legal teams, corporate counsel, IT departments managing these processes. It's largely due to the increasing adoption and effectiveness of AI and automation, specifically within the review phase itself. Technologies like technology-assisted review, or TAR, sometimes called predictive coding, and now the emerging capabilities of generative AI are significantly streamlining review workflows. They can prioritize documents, identify likely relevant ones much faster, reduce the sheer volume needing manual human review, and enhance accuracy in identifying key documents or patterns. This isn't just a minor statistical shift, it's a powerful signal that the fundamental economics of e-discovery are changing quite rapidly. Investing in advanced AI and automation for review is moving from a nice-to-have luxury to a strategic imperative to drive down costs, reduce review times, and get to the key evidence faster. Conversely, while review share shrinks, spending on the earlier stages, specifically processing and collection, is anticipated to rise quite significantly. The combined spending on just those two phases is projected to almost double over the forecast period. And this is driven primarily by the sheer volume and the increasing complexity of the data organizations now have to deal with. Remember, overall data volumes are growing at an estimated 30% annually, maybe more in some sectors. Think about how much potentially relevant data is created every second from all those collaborative platforms we mentioned. Teams, Slack, shared documents, plus messaging apps, specialized enterprise software, cloud storage, not just email anymore, far from it. This means that upfront data management, including efficient, targeted collection strategies and intelligent processing to make all that unstructured data actually searchable and reviewable, is becoming an increasingly critical and resource-intensive part of the entire e-discovery lifecycle. You have to handle the data tsunami first before you can even think about reviewing it.
Right, so AI is reducing the cost to review, but the data explosion is increasing the cost of getting the data ready for review. Interesting dynamic. So who's actually delivering these e-discovery services then? Are corporations and government agencies still doing most of it in-house, building their own teams and tech stacks? Or are external providers like specialized vendors and law firms taking a larger share of this growing market?
It's a mix, but the growth trends are revealing. Corporations and governments do remain the largest overall contributors to e-discovery work, in the sense that a significant portion of tasks, especially initial identification and preservation, are handled internally by their own legal and IT teams. This is often due to factors like wanting direct control over sensitive data, internal security policies, and existing institutional knowledge about their own data systems. However, when you look at the growth rates for services delivered externally, the picture is quite compelling. It shows where the market expansion is happening most rapidly. Law firms, for instance, are projected to experience faster growth rates in providing e-discovery services, with a forecast key AGR of around 12.59%. That's significantly higher than the overall market growth. And dedicated e-discovery service providers, the specialist vendors, are also seeing very rapid expansion, forecast at an 11.37% of CHR. What this suggests is that while in-house capabilities remain important, there's a strong trend towards leveraging external expertise and technology. Law firms are actively expanding their own capabilities to manage more complex legal needs related to discovery in-house, offering these services as integrated offerings, seeing e-discovery not just as an IT task, but as a core legal function they need to control or offer directly. Service providers, on the other hand, are really leveraging cutting-edge technologies, often cloud-based platforms, and highly scalable solutions to meet the escalating demand from clients, both corporations and law firms, who require specialized expertise, advanced tools, or simply the capacity to handle massive cases without making huge capital investments themselves.
Yeah, that sounds like a huge opportunity then for technology developers and those service providers to offer innovative, maybe more tailored solutions for all these diverse stakeholders. You've got in-house corporate legal teams with specific needs, large law firms building internal practices, smaller firms needing to outsource, and then the specialist vendors themselves. It sounds like a very dynamic vendor landscape.
Absolutely. It's incredibly dynamic. The need for specialized tools that can efficiently handle the burgeoning data complexity, that integrate seamlessly with platforms like Microsoft 365, that offer powerful AI for review, that ensure security and compliance. That need is immense, and it's driving a lot of innovation. Now, turning just briefly to the overall business confidence and the core challenges being perceived within the e-discovery sector itself, recent surveys seem to indicate a sense of, let's call it, cautious optimism. Just over half, specifically 51.95%, of organizations involved in e-discovery describe current business conditions as normal, not booming, not terrible, just normal. Another 37.66% actually found them good. So this suggests a relatively stable, perhaps cautiously positive operating environment overall.
Okay, stable to good conditions generally. But I'm sure it's not all smooth sailing. What are the biggest worries? What are the foremost perceived threats or challenges that organizations in this field are grappling with right now?
The primary concern, the one selected most often by a significant margin, 36.36% of respondents in a recent complex discovery survey, remains budgetary constraints. No surprise there, perhaps. Cost pressures continue to limit flexibility in staffing levels, in acquiring new, potentially expensive technology, and in expanding overall e-discovery capabilities to meet the growing demands. Budgets are always tight. Following closely behind budget issues as a kind of second tier of concern is the sheer complexity of data management. This breaks down into two related parts. Firstly, the growing diversity of data sources, cited by 22.08%. And secondly, the sheer volume of electronically stored information, cited by 18.18%. And this really reflects that evolution. We talked about data sources moving far beyond just traditional email and office documents, now encompassing that vast array of messaging apps, collaborative tools, cloud storage repositories, and all sorts of structured and unstructured data from various enterprise systems. It's just harder to find, collect, and manage it all. Security issues also remain a persistent background concern, cited by about 10.39% of respondents, which underscores that ongoing need for robust data protection measures throughout the entire e-discovery lifecycle, from preservation to production. You're handling sensitive data, so security has to be there. And these challenges, taken together, really highlight that operational resilience, intelligent resource allocation, deciding where to spend those limited budget dollars, and a strategic, proactive approach to information governance before litigation hits are all vital. For professionals out there managing budgets, technology roadmaps, or legal operations in the e-discovery space, understanding these friction points, these top concerns, helps immensely in prioritizing investments, justifying spending on the right tools or services, and proactively preparing for future data complexity and evolving regulatory demands.
This entire shift, the growth, the challenges, it's clearly being profoundly influenced by advanced technologies, and perhaps none more so right now than generative AI and large language models, or LLMs. What's their actual impact on e-discovery today, and what's looking likely just over the horizon? Is it hype, or is it really changing things?
Oh, the adoption is already significant and accelerating rapidly. It's definitely moving beyond the hype phase into practical application, albeit with caution. Recent data suggests a substantial 57.14%. Well over half of organizations involved in e-discovery are already actively integrating or deploying generative AI and LLM solutions somewhere within their workflows. And an additional 15.58% are currently piloting these tools. So you're looking at nearly 3/4 of the market actively experimenting or using this tech already. This indicates a really widespread recognition of their transformative potential in this field. The primary expected benefit from these technologies, as identified by users, is pretty clear: improved service or product delivery, which in e-discovery terms translates directly to faster, more accurate, and ultimately more cost-effective discovery processes. For example, GAI is being explored or used for things like early case assessment, getting a quick understanding of large document sets, for rapidly summarizing complex documents or depositions, for identifying key themes or arguments automatically, even for drafting initial versions of things like privilege logs, which is a notoriously time-consuming task, all aimed at significantly streamlining attorney review and reducing manual effort. However, as with any powerful new technology, it's definitely not without its considerations and concerns. While the potential benefits are clear, there are also recognized challenges. These include ensuring the accuracy and reliability of the results generated by these probabilistic models. Can you trust the summaries? Are the classifications correct? Hallucinations are a risk. There are concerns about the potentially high costs associated with implementing and, crucially, ongoing training and fine-tuning of these models for specific legal tasks. It's not necessarily cheap. And, very importantly, ensuring full regulatory compliance and ethical use, especially regarding data privacy when training models, avoiding bias in AI output that could affect case outcomes, and maintaining defensibility of the process if challenged in court. So it's a very dynamic space right now, with both immense potential for efficiency gains and critical considerations that need careful management for responsible and effective deployment.
Right? Huge potential, but needs careful handling. And it's quite interesting to note that Complex Discovery OU, the Estonia company actually, that provides many of these very insights and market analysis reports on cybersecurity, information governance, and e-discovery that we're drawing on, they explicitly state that they actively use GAI and LLM tools themselves to help streamline their own content creation and analysis processes. So they're not just reporting on the trend, they're actually implementing it in their own operations, eating their own dog food, so to speak. This entire segment on e-discovery truly highlights the critical and growing need for robust solutions across cybersecurity, privacy, and compliance within this specific landscape, but also more broadly in our data-driven world. And it brings us back again to our sponsors: www.cybermarketplace.com, www.myprivacy.blog, and www.compliancehub.wiki. They really are precisely the kind of targeted resources that stakeholders, whether they're legal professionals, IT managers, compliance officers, security leaders, need to navigate these complex challenges effectively and also capitalize on the emerging opportunities presented by these technological shifts.
Absolutely. It ties it all together perfectly. The market trends we've just discussed, from that fundamental shift to cloud-first e-discovery platforms to the transformative adoption of AI, Every single one of them necessitates expert guidance, guidance on securing vast amounts of sensitive data during collection and processing, guidance on protecting individual and corporate privacy rights throughout the life cycle, and guidance on ensuring strict adherence to a complex web of legal and regulatory requirements. Platforms like these, which curate information and connect users with solutions and expertise in these specific domains, they're becoming truly indispensable for anyone needing to operate effectively, efficiently, and defensively in this space.
Now, as we start to wrap up this deep dive into Estonia's remarkable digital nation journey, it feels really important to pivot slightly. We need to move from the glowing success stories and the impressive technological marvels to talk about the essential human element and also acknowledge the challenges that inevitably still exist, even in such a highly digitalized society, because no system is perfect. While Estonia is rightly praised globally as a model for digital government and innovation, it's also widely acknowledged, including within Estonia itself, that not everyone benefits equally from this rapid digital transformation. There can be a digital divide, even there.
That's a crucial and often overlooked point when discussing these kinds of national tech showcases. For all its incredible advancements, you have to remember that Estonia's digital infrastructure, by its very nature, inherently assumes a certain level of digital literacy among its users, a certain comfort level, a familiarity with concepts like digital signatures, online authentication methods, multi-factor security, and just the basic concept of interacting with essential services entirely online without a physical alternative sometimes. And for many groups, this can be a real barrier, particularly perhaps for foreigners newly arriving in the country who come from less digitalized backgrounds. For the elderly, who may not have grown up using digital tools and can find them intimidating or confusing. Also, for low-income families who might lack consistent access to reliable devices or affordable high-speed internet. And, importantly, for people with various disabilities who might face accessibility challenges with certain websites or applications if they aren't designed universally. For these groups, these concepts, digital ID e-services, might be entirely new, or they might present significant practical barriers to full and equitable participation in society. Just imagine an elderly person struggling to remember yet another complex online password just to access a basic government service. Or a new immigrant trying to navigate a critical application form that's only available online, maybe only in Estonian or English, languages they are still learning. These are real daily difficulties that can lead to frustration and ultimately exclusion if they are not proactively and carefully addressed by the system designers and policymakers.
So even with all the support systems and welcome programs that Estonia clearly offers, there are still discernible gaps. Gaps in helping everyone adapt fully and participate equitably in this highly digital society.
Yes, that seems to be the reality, based on reports and experiences shared. While Estonia does offer welcome programs, for instance, specifically designed to help foreigners adjust to the digital society and learn how to use the core e-services. Reports suggest that not everyone moving to the country is necessarily aware these programs even exist, or they might not have the time or resources to participate fully. And even for those who do participate, the support provided, often in group settings or through online materials, might not always be sufficient or personalized enough to guide them through every single specific step or troubleshoot every unique problem they encounter. This means many individuals, particularly those less tech-savvy or facing language barriers, still encounter questions, frustrations, and obstacles at various points in their journey towards full digital inclusion. Now, the ideal solution, of course, might be providing expensive one-on-one in-person support for every single user query. But that's largely acknowledged as infeasible on a national scale, given the sheer volume of digital interactions and the growing number of foreigners choosing to live and work in Estonia, partly attracted by its digital reputation. However, and this is important to stress, it is widely acknowledged that Estonia is very much aware of these struggles. They track usage, they solicit feedback, and they are actively working to address them. They have made significant efforts over the years to refine their digital services, make them more intuitive, improve user experience design. They've worked to provide more multi-language support options for key services. And they continue to run programs aimed at raising general digital literacy across the entire population, starting from schools. So they are genuinely committed, it seems, to ensuring that their digital society is as inclusive as possible, even as the challenges themselves continue to evolve with new technologies and changing demographics.
Okay, so it's an ongoing process, a continuous effort to bridge those gaps. But ultimately, individuals also have a significant role to play in this adaptation process themselves. It sounds like it has to be a shared responsibility, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It has to be a two-way street. While governmental responsibility, providing accessible services, robust support, inclusive design, continuous improvement of the digital infrastructure is absolutely paramount. Individuals also have a clear responsibility, perhaps even a self-interest, to actively make use of the resources that are available to them, to seek out help when needed, and fundamentally to adapt to these evolving technological landscapes, because they aren't going away. Technology will inevitably continue to evolve, likely at an ever-increasing pace. And it's truly in everyone's best interest for employment, for accessing services, for civic participation to try and keep pace with these changes as best they can. This means embracing, or at least accepting, the need for continuous learning, seeking out available support systems like libraries or community centers that offer digital literacy training, and actively working to develop the digital skills and confidence required to thrive or even just function effectively in a progressively digital world. It really is a dynamic partnership, a kind of social contract between the state providing the tools and the citizens learning how to use them effectively and safely. And this whole discussion about inclusion and adaptation, it raises a really important, maybe overarching question for any nation that's embracing digital transformation, not just Estonia. How do societies ensure that the profound benefits of digital advancement, efficiency, access, convenience are truly equitable? How do they ensure those benefits reach every single citizen, especially the most vulnerable? And what is the optimal, probably quite delicate balance between governmental provision of services, infrastructure, and support, and the degree of individual adaptation and personal responsibility required in a constantly, rapidly evolving digital world? Finding that balance is key.
That is a profound challenge, isn't it? And it's a critical ethical consideration for any digitally ambitious nation or organization, really. A truly successful digital society, just like any healthy society, needs to consciously cater to all its citizens, not just the tech-savvy early adopters who find it easy. It needs robust mechanisms and a genuine commitment to ensuring that no one is left behind or disenfranchised in this rapid, often overwhelming, global digital transformation. The human element, the inclusivity, the accessibility, ultimately, that's where the true success or failure of a digital nation will likely be measured in the long run, not just by the tech specs. So, reflecting back, we've taken a really remarkable deep dive today into Estonia's digital revolution. It's quite a story. We've seen how they meticulously built a robust e-everything society, founded on that resilient backbone of the X-road data exchange layer and near-universal digital IDs for citizens, and how they cleverly fostered a thriving e-residency community, effectively extending Estonia's digital borders globally, creating new economic opportunities and a unique form of soft power.
Exactly. And we've also explored their very proactive, forward-looking, cyber-conscious Estonia strategy, how they're tackling a continuously evolving and increasingly dangerous threat landscape, everything from state-sponsored attacks and ransomware, right through to the theoretical but potentially devastating threat of quantum computing, and how they're doing this by embedding fundamental principles like security by design and zero-trust architectures into their systems and culture. We also saw how these national efforts, this microcosm of a digital society grappling with data and security, connect directly and relevantly to the booming global e-discovery market, highlighting that universal and rapidly growing need for strong cybersecurity, robust data privacy protections, and strict regulatory compliance in this era of absolutely exploding digital data.
Absolutely. And for you, our listener, whether you're a business professional grappling with data management challenges, a cybersecurity expert, a compliance officer, maybe just a curious learner exploring global innovation, or simply someone trying to make sense of the digital world unfolding around you, Estonia's story, both its successes and its ongoing challenges, offers really powerful insights. Insights into how nations, and perhaps by extension businesses and communities, can embrace innovation, leverage technology for societal benefit, and build thriving digital communities, all while trying to prioritize security, build digital trust, and foster inclusion in our increasingly interconnected and sometimes precarious digital reality.
And considering Estonia's pioneering journey over the last 3 decades and looking at the rapid, almost exponential evolution of digital data volumes and sophisticated cyber threats globally, it perhaps raises an important final question for all of us to think about. What could your digital future, or the future of your organization, or even your community look like if we collectively, deliberately embrace the core principles of a cyber-conscious society like Estonia aims to be? If we fostered the collaborative spirit of its e-community, if we committed to truly building digital trust from the ground up, not just as a feature or for convenience, but as a core fundamental pillar of resilience, innovation, and sustainable growth in the digital age, what would that enable?
A very provocative thought to end on. Building digital trust from the ground up.
A massive thank you once again to our incredible sponsors for making this detailed deep dive possible today. www.cisomarketplace.com for connecting you with vital cybersecurity solutions. www.myprivacy.blog for delivering those essential data protection insights in a complex world. And www.compliancehub.wiki for helping you navigate the intricate maze of regulatory complexities. We genuinely encourage you to explore their resources to continue your own deep dive into these critical and absolutely fascinating areas. They offer a wealth of information. Thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this exploration of Estonia's digital journey and the related global trends has given you plenty of aha moments, perhaps some new perspectives, and a clearer, maybe more nuanced understanding of the digital future we are all navigating. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive into your sources.